Hello friends and welcome to today's video. And today we have an exciting video where I will be sharing with you my top 10 or recommended 10 Neocolor II crayons for the springtime. So even though we are still in February and here in the Northern Hemisphere it is still winter, I think it is okay to turn our eyes a bit towards springtime already and look at these Neocolor crayons for the springtime. As you know, I like to work with limited palettes, and I also really enjoy creating these limited palettes, curating the perfect palettes for seasons or different subject matters, whatever. So this one is my curated palette for the springtime, and I'll explain you as we go why each color is included. First color is lemon yellow, and this is the beautiful bright yellow, which I think is a good staple for pretty much any season. But for springtime, well, for obvious reasons, it's bright, it brings you sunshine, and it's also perfect for any kind of Easter related illustrations. Next is Sahara yellow, and yes, I know this one is included in pretty much every palette that I put together. And the reason is that Sahara yellow is a beautiful mixing color, but it's also really gorgeous on its own. It's a very unique color and it works for so many different subjects. So that's why it's pretty much always included. Then next is ochre. This is the brown of choice, and I was debating a lot which brown to include, and I decided to include ochre because this has this beautiful yellow undertone to it. It's bright and light, and you can mix it with so many different colors. And the ability to mix, or the mixability of a color, if you want to say it that way, is very important, especially when working with limited palettes. So that's why we have to think about that as well. Next is salmon pink. As you know, if you've been following my channel for a while already, I love pink. It's my favorite color, and I have loads of pinks and I'm always debating which one to include in each palette. But I think this salmon pink has, again, it's very interesting. It's a very interesting color. It's a very good mixing color, and it's just a very nice for spring flowers and for springtime in general. Option for that would have been just the pink, which is also gorgeous, maybe my favorite one in this. Oh, the second favorite one of Neocolors, but I think salmon pink just brings that extra touch. Then we have Carmine, beautiful red, and I think each limited palette for each season just needs a good basic red, and Carmine was the one I chose for spring because it has this nice cool undertone, but it still is deeper red and not this fire engine red, if you understand what I mean. It's just a really pretty color. You soon see when we activate it. Then is violet, and well, I think this is just the color that needs to be included for all the spring flowers. That's the main reason. The blue of choice is light blue, good basic blue for landscapes, and especially I think spring landscapes when the skies are really bright. And it's also perfect for flowers, especially when mixed together with, for example, violet. I will soon show you also color mixes. The green, we have actually two greens in this palette. First is yellow green, which is this basic bright green, but if there ever is a season to use it, it's springtime. And next is olive, which is one of my favorites. It's very basic green for pretty much any landscape paintings or drawings that I do. So really beautiful green. And then surprisingly, this is a surprise for anyone who's been following my channel, we are including black. I don't often use black in my Neocolor II drawings, and that's why you can see this black has been hardly used. But I will explain you why I included the black this time, and I'll explain it while I activate the colors. Black is a perfect color to add to any very bright palette. It can tone down colors, obviously, a lot, and it also brings a lot of contrast. You can use it for mixing, but also on its own to give some definition to your drawings. And especially springtime, the subject matters might include such as birds or flowers, forests, and black it's a very good basic color to use those. You could also use Payne's Gray as part of this palette. Usually, I'd say I prefer Payne's Gray, but this time I wanted to do something a bit different. Payne's Gray is the obvious choice for me always to use that as a kind of dark neutral color in my palettes. Oh, by the way, look at this Carmine. Isn't that a gorgeous pink red? It's really, really pretty. And I just have to say this before we get back to black. If you look at the actual crayon, you could never guess that it's actually this kind of super bright, beautiful pink. So that's why it's always important to swatch and see what your colors actually look like before making the decisions. Love that color. Yeah, so black. When we go soon to show you some color mixes, you will see how easy it is to create these muted tones for the early springtime using black. Because when we are creating this kind of limited palette, and especially for a season, we want it to be okay to use this for maybe, I would say like 3 months. During 3 months in springtime, the nature usually changes a lot. So we start with this, at least here where I live, we start with still having some snow early March, or even, I mean, we might have snow even in April, so that's like, but anyway, we start from having snow and having this kind of wintry landscape still, but then later on in May, we'll start seeing these gorgeous, gorgeous colors. So that's why it's important to think about different color mixes. And I think this palette covers pretty much, like, at least most of the needs and most of the months. So here you can see the basic 10 colors. They are, let's say, really nice and bright, with the exception of having these two. The olive and black obviously are more, olive is more muted and black is, well, black. Those are bleeding into each other, but never mind about that. Okay, let's see the black magic, what I mean in practice. So, as I said, when you have these bright colors, you can so easily use black to mute them down. Let's add just a little bit of black to, for example, this. Let me check if I have a smaller, let's take a smaller brush. Let's add a bit of black to this Carmine color. Look at that purple. It's just gorgeous. And again, super versatile color for your spring drawing. You might be doing some, you know, bluebell forest or something like that, where you just want to have, or crocuses or any kind of spring flowers. So that is just one way to use it. You can actually alter the color to something totally different. Then we'll take this bright blue, just a little bit of black, because this black is very, very dominant in Neocolor II, so don't add too much of it. And again, you can turn this bright blue into beautiful, say like a very bluish grayish blue, beautiful color. And this is exactly the kind of color that I would use earlier in springtime, when there might be not so much bright green visible yet, but a bit more muted, maybe even like a rainy day. I would say a rainy day color. That's what that would work really well for. Then we'll take this bright green and do the same, just a little bit of black. And the more black you use, then obviously the kind of more black the color will be. So be careful and test how much black is actually enough. And again, you can get this beautiful muted green, perfect for early spring and even the winter scene. So you can see these three colors actually would go very well with the winter palette as well. So that's why this using black and adding black to this palette makes this spring palette really perfect all the way from winter to summer months. And let's do one more example here. Let's use this ochre, which is our, say, brown, but it's not really brown. It's much more like a yellow, but orangey color. But when we are using that together with this black, we can create a beautiful say a bit more greenish but darker brown as well. So I think that's enough explaining why black is part of this palette, don't you think? I think it just works really well. But let's look at some other color mixes that you can create. So as said, when using limited palettes, it's very important to have a good kind of opportunities for color mixing. You have to have colors which work together. Here I have Salmon pink and Sahara yellow. Let's prepare the mixes first, and then I'll show you what they create. We have light blue and ochre. I'm going to do here pretty much 50-50, so 50% of each color. But of course, as always, it all depends on how much of each color you're using, so you will get different end results. We have here violet and lemon yellow. And then we could even mix the Carmine with light blue. And then let's make a very basic trio mix with our light blue, lemon yellow, and Carmine. Let's start with these 5 color mixes. Now we'll show you what they create. The first one gives you a beautiful apricot color. Let's say it's just very interesting, like a light, yeah, like light apricot color, a bit of orangish, pinkish, light brown thingy. It's a really pretty color. And for this, for example, use this for spring flowers, but also perfect for nature drawing if you want to make some birds. I think that would be perfect for birds, or maybe your Easter bunnies, or, you know, there are many use cases for that one. Next one, where we have light blue and ochre, it gives you a gorgeous green. And I would say mixing your different greens, that's a very important skill to have whenever you are doing any kind of nature subjects. So this is a beautiful green. It's actually very similar to this one, but having a bit more, let's say, warmth to it. And then we have this beautiful color mix which gives us brown. So that was the violet and our lemon yellow, and it of course gives you brown because those are complementary colors. And again, mixing your browns is also super important skill to have whenever you are making any nature drawings with limited palettes. Then we will have very traditional mix that gives us beautiful purple. Again, we can have these gorgeous purple colors for our spring florals, or even very useful for your birds. And then this classic trio, which we always want to test what kind of grayish, brownish color we can get with these 3. Say not really, I mean, they are our primaries, as close as primaries go in this palette. So that's a really beautiful reddish brown. So I'd say those are maybe some of my favorite color mixes in this one, but let's add a couple of more, because why not? Let's see what happens if we create a color mix where we add some light blue, Sahara yellow, and just a hint of black. So let's add quite a lot of Sahara yellow because that is not super dominant in this one. Then we add a bit of light blue and then just a little bit even less black. And mix these together. Look at this, isn't this beautiful color? It is so beautiful. Again, one of those colors that would also go beautifully for your, I would say, even summer palette and also winter palette. It's a really, really nice color mix, that one. So maybe what I'm trying to say here is, again, as I always say here on my channel, play with your colors, get to know them, and get to see what they can actually do for you. Working with limited palettes is very useful. It will, first of all, teach you a lot about color mixes, and it will force you to test these different color mixes and see what you can do with your limited palette. But also it helps you often to keep your, for example, your landscape very kind of put together, because you don't have all those different colors. But even if you use different colors to mix new colors, there are still the same kind of undertones to each color that you use. So that is my very bright and pretty spring palette, and some color mixes to hopefully give you some inspiration to test and see what your perfect spring palette could look like. Please share in the comments below if you are someone who also enjoys to explore and curate your own limited palettes, or if this limited palette inspired you to do some own color mixes, and please, if it did, share those below. I will see you very soon in my next video. Thank you so much for watching, and bye for now.